Tamque doje shajere zonro jinja mado doje pongja ba surje lombo tawru jipe ke shaje jabu jadongu zwanza dorje chanjen delo naro da marba mala juje gambo ba pamo ba jawan rong ba kaju lama namje da jon she Danandana tsira tamje de lama la pe la ye juzo zo lo zo yon den jam zo nga la wan den zhe don chen zhe pe ge le zo da ge lo ju zon ro war zin je lab do so je lam dan ro war zin je lab do so lan ro wa ze war zin je lab do Chu wai xie zhen jia war zhen jie lao de zo gang ge den jian zhe war zhong ge ba me ba jie ba me ba da me ba wa me ba zhuo me ba ta de du me du jie me zhu ba ni xie xie den ba zo ba san jie ma nan jie dan ba de lao xiang zhe du zhen jian zi wa la ma jie jie gu song du jie xian la du da da ge jie lan pe de Da ge den ba dan zhen jie jie dong jia jian bo zhe war zhen jie lao de zo. Good morning, dear Dharma brothers and sisters. Today I'm going to teach on the patience chapter in Shantideva's way of Bodhisattva. I prefer this chapter among all the chapters because this chapter is very beneficial for our daily lives. Whether you are religious or not, whether you are practitioners or not, whether you are educated or not, it is possible to get angry for many reasons. The result of anger is defeat in the course of all activities from daily work up to becoming a Buddha. Anger also destroys a healthy body and a healthy mind, a happy mind. So I prefer this chapter. In this chapter, in this patience chapter has in this patience chapter there are two main divisions. And the first part explain the defects of anger. The second part illustrates illustrates the benefits of patience. The first verse I read. All good works gathered in 1,000 ages, such as deeds of generosity and offerings to the blissful ones, a single flash of anger shatters them. You often heard this verse, right? This verse meaning is quite easy, but I will clarify. I will clarify it. Here, getting angry destroy once of your virtue. It will block. It will block your receiving the result of that virtue. Especially if you are angry at Buddha or Bodhisattvas. This is because first you have to experience the result of that anger, and that could take a long time to end. Perhaps that could take in eons. Buddha nature is like the sun, and anger is like a thick cloud that suddenly cover the sun. When the sun goes behind the clouds, the sun's ray cannot appear or make rainbows. Similarly, if the qualities of Buddha nature cannot appear because of anger, then bodhicitta and compassion, and good motivation cannot radiate from this angry person. The angry person's attention is completely controlled by anger. Usually we say if you are angry, you can kill hundreds of people with one finger. This power comes from the emotion of anger supporting the finger or trigger. So this powerful anger will become a cause of suffering. If the cause is very powerful, then the suffering will be very painful. That's why we must be patient. If anger has such a power, then patience has the same. The patient has same power. But the power of patience is the beneficial. I mean, the beneficial, the power of patience, and the power of patience means the beneficial. So Shantideva says here in this second verse. I will read it. Second verse. No evil is there similar to anger. No austerity to be compared with patience. Steep yourself, therefore, in patience, in various ways, insistently. I will rewrite. No evil is there similar to anger. No austerity to be compared with patience. Steep yourself, therefore, in patience, in various ways, insistently. Insistently, yeah. Okay, clear, right? Actually, these verses are pretty easy. If you read this book by yourself, still you will understand this. This is not so hard than like other Dharma teachings, but very difficult to put into the action. So only that. But through this teaching and listening, and then still it has great benefits. Then I read this 3 verse. Those tormented by the pain of anger never know tranquility of mind. Strangers they will be to every pleasure. They will neither sleep nor feel screw. Clear? Those tormented by the pain of anger never know tranquility of mind. Strangers they will be to every pleasure. They will neither sleep nor feel secure. I think secure. Yeah, secure. Thank you. Actually, the emotion of anger, it disturbs one's sleep. When you sleep, your inner winds need to relax freely throughout your body. But anger ties, right? Anger ties them all together in the upper body. You feel awake and energized. So that sleep deprivation again becomes a cause of anger. So anger also destroys joy and happiness. For example, if you are going with your friends if you are going with your friends to a party to enjoy yourself, and you get angry, you cannot experience that happiness. Not only that, but perhaps you were preparing for a long time for that party, and you came from far away to have a good time. And then suddenly you are angry, and your good time is uh, ruined. So this is similar to what we say about moments angry destroying eons of virtue. Right? If I give you an example, if you say, you wish, for example, you wish you will enjoy in some place, then you go there for many days, and then you reached that place, and then some case you get angry, and then you spend money for gas, right? Cars, you spend time, you did lots of preparations, but then everything's gone through the angry emotion. So being patient has a benefit all the time. In this fourth and fifth verse, it also says, I will read, even those dependent on their Lord for gracious gifts of honors and of wealth will rise against and slay a master who is filled with wrath and hate. Then 5 verse. His family and friends he grieves and is not served by those his gifts attract. No one is there all in all who being angry lives at ease. Most of the time, when people are kind, we remember the kindness. When the leaders take care of their people, or when parents, their children, or teachers, their students, it is remembered. Even animals like a dog will bark strangers, but wag its tail when it see its honor. But when anger arises, one completely forgets the feeling of gratitude. So anger interrupts relationships. Sometimes anger becomes the cause of murder. So we have to routinely remind ourselves of the bad attributes of anger. Then it will help when the hot water of anger is starting to boil in your mind. In conclusion, the 6th verse says, all these ills are brought about by wrath. Our sorrow bearing enemy But those who seize and crush their anger down will find their joy in these and future lives. No, one can stay happy during a moment of anger. Also, result of anger, it is not happiness. We believe in next life and in the in this life. Anger will be the cause of rebirth in hell if we do not purify it. So the second half of this verse, the sixth verse, but those who seize and crush their anger down will find their joy in these and future lives. So whoever works carefully to conquer the emotion of anger will have happiness in these and future lives. When one starts to get angry, some sorrow also enters the mind. When the anger subsides, sorrow still remain in the mind. It is like a pungent. It is like a pungent medicine that placed in a bag. Once you remove it from the bag, still the smell remains. If you don't know that medicine is medicine smell is very strong. Okay. Then I will read verse 7 and 8. Getting what I do not want, and all that hinders my desire. In discontent, my anger finds its fuel. From this, it grows and beats me down. Okay. Therefore, I will utterly destroy the sustenance of this my enemy, my fool, who has no other purpose but to hurt and injure me. Okay. We harm ourselves with anger all the time. So we try to be mindful of patience. Anger does not give us what we need, but it gives us what we do not need. Because anger brings sorrow, which we don't need, right? Anger brings enemies, which we don't need. When anger brings an enemy, we try to conquer that enemy. But anger itself is our enemy. So now we have two enemies. If we cannot conquer one enemy, then two enemies are too difficult. It is a human habit to try to conquer the person we are angry at. But in the Dharma way, we try to conquer our anger. If we conquer our anger, this specifies outer enemy. Because without anger, there is no outer enemy. Next verse 9. So come what may, I will not upset my cheerful happiness of mind. Dejection never brings me what I want. My virtue will be warped and marred by it. Here I offer you my personal experience of how to patience with this verse. Usually when my mind is happy and relaxed, I don't pay attention to taking care of sustaining and developing that state. It is only after I get angry and my mind is filled, right? My mind is filled with regret and sorrow that I realized I should take care and keep my happy state of mind when I have it. So then I able to be mindful, and when someone around me get angry, even at me directly, I can generate compassion for them as they have lost their freedom. And then next, the 10th verse. If there's a remand when trouble strikes, what reason is there for dejection? What reason is there for dejection? And if there is no help for it, what use is there in being glum? This verse you often heard. It is an auspicious and famous verse. So, but how do we utilize this auspicious verse? It may be well known, but if we don't know how to apply it, it will not be auspicious for us. For example, if put a beautiful flower into the hand of a blind person, that person cannot enjoy it. So I think if you recite this verse every morning, and so do a little analytical meditation, it will help throughout daily life. Sometimes people have serious problems. Then they forget the value of their life. So they impulsively decide to commit suicide. For example, in school, when someone fails their exams, they jump to the conclusion that there's nothing else to do because they only focus on the fails. They completely forget how much money was spent on their education from month to month and year to year. And they cannot acknowledge how much they have learned. Also, they cannot remember that the life they have ahead of them is much longer than the life they have already lived uh, and left, and they can do many great things in their time ahead. Perhaps they can transform the world into a peaceful, harmonious place. Perhaps they can relieve people of suffering. That is much greater than their own suffering. So reflect on that. Think before making wrong decision. As this verse says, if the situation can't be fixed, it's just one situation. It is not everything. There are many other things that can be done. So don't focus on just one situation that is not going well. We have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs. If there's something wrong with one eye, we can with the other eye. If we cannot grab hold of something with one arm, we can hold it with the other arm. Our great karma made 2 of these things for us. We should proceed like this. There's no use worry about it. Okay. Now I will read the next chapter. Next verse is number 11, right? Pain, humiliation, insults, or rebukes. We do not want them either for ourselves or those we love. For those we do not like, it's the reverse. Just as it is not okay to be suffering oneself or to be looked down on or to be disrespected or be the target of harsh words. And that is also not okay for one's guru or family and friends. But we think it's okay to use all of these on one's enemies. But this is wrong view, wrong action and wrong result. But it is hard to remember When the fire of anger is burning in the mind, everything terrible happens to the enemy. So here enemy means not just your real enemy, but anyone who is object of your anger. Then next, I will read next verse. It says, "There is nothing that does not grow light. Through habit and familiarity, putting up with little cares, I will train myself to bear with great adversity." Adversity, yeah. I think this verse is very true because suffering is the cause of renunciation of samsara. Renunciation, the first door of Dharma practice. The renunciation is the first door of Dharma practice. For example, at the very beginning of a practice, we contemplate the four thoughts. This practice is the first step in becoming a serious practitioner. Also, if you need to take vows, first you need renunciation. Also, Shakyamuni Buddha, his decision to leave his kingdom and go to the forest was an act of renunciation, which came from his experience of suffering. Suffering helps us understand the disagreeable nature of samsara, and it helps our practice to progress. Because we are more motivated to find happiness. But this way of thinking is not easy to come by. That's why many people lost everything to their suffering, even their life. So we must practice these methods, transforming suffering. When we ourselves suffer, and we must share them with others. Okay. Then the next verse is verse 13. The carnal folk and those devoted to the goddess endure the meaningless austerities of being cut and burned. So why am I so timid on the path of freedom? Okay. To be patient with suffering is the best healing of suffering. Best healing of suffering. Being patient with suffering does not mean to let the suffering come and hold it. We have to use methods and wisdom to try to transform the suffering. I already gave some examples of transforming suffering. Sometimes think that suffering is also impermanent. Suffering is also impermanent. It will change. Actually, in this case, suffering does not catch you. Because suffering has no hands to grasp it, but you have hands to catch suffering. we catch suffering, right? We hold suffering. The suffering almost ready to tell us goodbye, but we hold them. That's where. So you can let it go through the nature of it. Nature of it. What is nature of it? It's impermanence. So nature of suffering is also impermanence. If you practice with impermanence, then when you suffer, you will think of impermanence before you are suffering. If you can purely think of your suffering as impermanent, then your suffering will agreed and say yes and at the same time disappear. You should try it. But if you identify with the permanence, then you will think that suffering is unchangeable and unfixable. And then it will be bigger problem for you. Actually, you should train with small sufferings. In that way, you can develop and eventually be patient with large sufferings. Next verse, 14, right? Next verse is 14. There is nothing that does not grow light. Through habits and familiarity, putting up with little cares, I will train myself to bear with the great adversity. Oh, this is, this verse is useful in many situations, not only with regard to patience. But here we are talking about patience. If you are patient, small difficulties, then you will become familiar with how to have patience. Also, if you get angry when there are small issues, then you will become familiar with reacting with anger. So no one would like to be an angry person. So if you really like staying calm, then you should practice step by step with small situations first. If you don't know how to be patient with small things, you should reflect on the consequences of anger. It separates close friends and eventually leads to health problems and even heart attack. Being patient does not mean just with people But within, like your phone, your computer, your car, when they don't work, you get angry. And maybe it's possible you will break them. If you break them, then they will not be upset. But you will suffer a loss. You will suffer a loss. Also, the weather is something to have patience with. Sometimes it is too hot, sometimes it is too cold, sometimes there's too much rain, and sometimes nothing. If you become angry because of this, then you will be an angry person, but the weather does not change to what you want immediately. Or because you are angry, so if you are patient with weather conditions, then they do not affect you negatively. And that is the best way to change the weather. Anger has one qualities. One quality. When it arises, we recognize it very clearly. So we remember this quality and be mindful whenever it arises. As it says in the Dharma, if you are frequently angry, then your life will be short. But everybody expects to have a long life. So being patient is the yoga for long life. Even if you cannot control your anger, don't let yourself be controlled by your angry emotion. This is also how you gain victory over your anger. Always keep the smelling mind of bodhicitta. Then the emotion of anger has no room, no space. Okay. Finish. Finished. Just kidding. We have a few more. Today maybe we finished early, quite early. 14, 15, right? Don't I see that this is so with common irritations, bits and stings of snakes and flies, experiences of hunger and of thirst, and painful rash on my skin. 15. In any case, being overly sensitive make even small sufferings unbearable. For example, if you get a small insect bite, yeah, and then you scratch, right? You scratch. I did that actually. You scratch it too much, then it will get worse. So sometimes the teachings really, the teachings are like a medicine, not always sweet, but they are very true. I prepared this teaching before insect bit me on my shoulder. And then I also the scratch, right? Scratch, and more and more. And then exactly it's happened. So then getting worse. So that's where the teaching is true. Yeah, in other case, if I listen this teaching from somewhere, right now I gave this teaching, so maybe pretty okay. But someone teach on there when I have these situations, it is very possible those teacher says something on me indirectly. It is very possible, I think, but it is not really. It's very true. So it is true nature. So that's where it happened on me, and it says like that, right? So if you remain like space, then nothing can have an effect. Just as fire cannot burn and water cannot wash away space. Also, in this world, well-known people practice patience with their difficult situations, and then they become famous. We guess, sometimes we think, for example, Buddha, we thought, oh, Buddha's in his life, he never get angry or he never suffering. We just imagine like that. But he did everything what we do. And then he progressed. Progressive. He learned from his sufferings. He learned from his sufferings, and then he, how to say, wasn't loose under his suffering. Same thing. But I can't say all of us, but in the majorities or minority, whatever, some of us, we are suffering, then we lose under this situation. That is what the difference between Buddha and us, and the Bodhisattvas and us. Otherwise, yeah, we always have to think that Bodhisattvas, they also have same problems. If they don't have problems, then they don't have patience. They don't have a benefit of patience. For example, one Bodhisattva be patient, being patient with one person, then we think, oh, he is a Bodhisattva, she is a Bodhisattva, she has no angry emotion. He has no angry emotion. That is quite misunderstand. I think quite misunderstand. But not 100%. We can say they don't have angry emotion through this way, because they are Bodhisattva. They what is it? They purify. They pacified. By this way we can say. But in other case, they have, and then they can be patient. Then we cannot be patient. So only these different things. But right now we have super wisdom, super wisdom. So we learned. That's why we are teaching this, and we are learning this, and then we practice. We have to improve. That's very important. Really, we learn from our mistakes, and then we can improve. It is very possible we make new mistakes, but we don't make old mistakes. At least two more. Okay, one is okay. Still, we are ordinary people. Second is maybe we say, oh, it is forgettable. Forget. I'm sorry or something. But third is, I think, too much, right? That's where 1, 2 is okay. One is very okay, I think, honestly. One is very okay. Because if we do not experience, then how we will know? So one is okay, I think. Okay, so we I'm teaching on there and also reading here. So you more focus on my reading. This is Shantideva's verse. So you understand clearly this meaning, and then you use in the daily life. Then these commentaries are my own suggestions. Some of these are my own experiences, but I have strong wish to progress patience. I hope you all also progress your patience. The be patient is actually happy life. Really, we just close eyes and thinking a little bit. Just remember some couple of months ago, or years ago, or days, or weeks, whatever. Then we remember, oh, at that time I did angry through this way. I did anger like that way, this way. At that moment, was I happy or unhappy? Oh, I wasn't happy. Happy. Oh, yesterday, I I was being patient with that and this and those. At that moment, how my feeling is peaceful and happy. Oh, I'm going to prefer these things. I don't want to prefer this part of suffering. So we have to think. We have to communicate by ourselves, and then we will improve. This is very important. But actually, I read a letter. I'm going to say that be patient means there's one thing, but that's actually I don't want to say because nobody may not do it because everybody is smart. Be patient means not like tanka. Tanka we put here. If the dirt come up, is no problem. Tanka has no problem, right? And then if we open the doors, winds come inside, tankas has no problem. If sun effect on the tankas has no problem. Be patient. It does not mean like that. Be patient means you know well, you well know about that, but some situations we have to change for the sake of the big environment. Sometimes we have to let people know how about karmic system. Sometimes we have to help to others stop to doing non-virtues continuously. So by this way, also the best thing is we have to tell, we have to make sense for them. This is very important. But the best thing is gently, softly, nicely. This is a way of Bodhisattva. So here one thing: if we try to help someone gently, peacefully, but sometimes it's very difficult. The people don't understand that way. But we have to patient. That is also great patient, right? We have to be patient. So there are many ways of be patient. That finally being patient, it is beneficial. Is always remain in our life. So where is that? Okay. So when you are space, then you have many ideas like sunshine and moonlight. You can illuminate a good path for yourself and others. In brief, patience is the armor, right? Armor against the old obstacles. And patience also prevents future obstacles. So being patient, being patient does not mean having nothing to say, nothing to think, and nothing to do. So first you think rationally and logically, then meditate on that and stay with it until it becomes familiar. But of course, as you go through this training, you will still get angry and sensitive. But this is how we grow, like we did physically on our two legs since childhood. How? Stand up and fall down. Stand up and fall down. Then parents take care of us, but then sometimes they, in order to, the best thing is to right away remember you have lost patience. And even if it is hours later or days later, you remember you have lost patience. And then don't think it is finished. Come back to the training. This means you will promise not lose your patience like that again in the same situation. Okay. Oh. 16. Oh. Sorry, I did not read 16, is it? Yeah, I just read. Otherwise, this order I have to read, but I forgot. Heat and cold, the wind and rain, sickness, prison, beatings. I will not fret about such things. To do so only aggravates my trouble. trouble. This I already explained, right? There. So now 17. There are some whose bravery increase at the sight of their own blood, while some lose all their strength and faint when it is another's blood they see. Yep. This verse speaks about courage. You should understand it in this way. Some have the courage to conquer their own suffering and also have the strength to help conquer others' suffering as well. But some are afraid of others' suffering when they see or hear it. And when they are faced with their own suffering, they'll lose themselves completely. So we don't want to be afraid of suffering. We need to courage to overcome suffering. Not only our own suffering, we need to have courage to overcome and all mother sentient beings, overcome all mother sentient beings' suffering, as Avalokiteshvara has done. We have a big responsibility. We have to conquer our own suffering, and we are going to conquer others' suffering. The next verse, next are verse 18, 19, and 20. I will read them together. This result from how the mind is set in steadfastness or cowardice. And so I will scorn all injury, and hardships I will disregard. When sorrows fall upon the ways, the mind should be serene and undisturbed. For in their war against defiled emotion, many are the hardships, as in every battle. Thinking scorn of every pain, and vanquished such foes as hatred. These are exploits of victorious warriors. The rest is slaying what is died already. What is died already? Dead, right? What is dead already? As the 18th verse says, if you can ignore temporary suffering, this is the best. If you cannot ignore them, then you need to be patient with them. When you are patient with your suffering, then you will find peace. When you are patient with your suffering, then you will find peace within yourself. Actually, if you cannot find peace within yourself, you're practicing, you won't find it anywhere. When you are combating suffering, for sure it is very difficult because you need extra patience. First, you need to overcome suffering, which is hard work. Second, it may take time to conquer the suffering. In brief, if you conquer the enemy of afflictions, then you are courageous. Okay. Next, 21. Suffering also has its worth. Through sorrow, pride is driving out, and pity felt for those who wander in samsara. Evil is avoided, goodness seems delightful. May I read it? Suffering also has its worth. Through sorrow, pride is driving out, and pity, this looks like a pity, right? Pity felt for those who wander in samsara. Evil is avoided. Goodness seems delightful. Okay. People who help others through practice of psychology, this is similar to how they think. So sometimes we should think about the positive side of suffering, as this verse mentions. We are Dharma practitioners, so in this way, suffering helps us to understanding suffering. So I mean, when we are suffering, we don't give up, because this is samsara. In the samsara has lots of sufferings. You stay in samsara, you are staying in samsara, still you think you no need suffering, then best way to think, best way is the be patient with suffering. Be patient means not always people, right? With suffering and any kind of situations. So also it helps, suffering helps us remain humble. It especially helps to grow compassion. This is what I think, but you check is true or not. People who have fewer challenges in their lives have less compassion. People who grow when faced with challenges have more compassion when they see or heard other people's suffering from their challenges. Yeah, of course, someone in previous life they purified lots of egoistic mind or something. Then this life they have almost like automatically they have a great compassion. We see someone has really someone's compassion and open mind and understanding is so wonderful. I experienced really. I learned that things through not always nicely. I learned these things through the different experiences. So, for example, I gave you example here about how someone who is sick for a long time, they easily feel compassion when they know other people are suffering from sickness. Is it true? Someone who's sick. Many Tibetan people, I saw many Tibetans in someone who's sick. I don't know. Oh, this person did not sick. It has no. It has less compassion. That I cannot say because I don't analyze particularly on there. But I have some. I know some of these. Not only Tibetans, but just right now I remember that someone is sick a long time, and then when they heard, I noticed from their actions and their face and their feelings, they say when they heard somebody sick, and then they easily shows the action of compassion really. So I have a not very close friend, but I know quite a longer who is Tibetan. So who really sick year by year. They whenever talking about the people the sick or something, it in order to it or speaking out says something. We are the Dharma practitioners, so we need compassion. Then sometimes the suffering and sickness, they will help. So not always bad. The sufferings are not always bad things. And also through the experience of suffering, many people change their lifestyles. For instance, if before they were well-known businessmen and they lose their business, and then through this suffering, they become practitioners. This is just one example. There are many cases where suffering has lead people to stop committing non-virtue and take up practice. So we use these methods of handling our suffering and go forward towards happy life and enlightenment. That is what today is our topic or today's our teaching. And I'm going to stop here now, and please you read this book, The Way of the Bodhisattva. This book's name is that. So by Shantideva, right? There are many chapters, and then wisdom and patience, and it's really necessary in this life. And then we practice these things in this life, and then this is also great karma for next life. So may all you have a great benefit. Thank you very much. Sunamde tamche zubani tovani be danam panse de jigan nanja balang job siben zolen roa sho. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed.